Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. We are grateful for our media who are able to show up for this press conference this morning. We also have a contingent of media who are joining us online on the State Department of Education's YouTube page. So thank you for those who are joining us virtually, and thank you for those who are joining us here in person. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I introduce our State Superintendent of Education, who's going to share some very important news. I'm sure over the last couple of years, you've heard a lot about the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP, as it is called. And the last administration of NAEP happened in 2019. It is generally an assessment that is done every other year, but we all know this ugly thing called COVID that popped up in 2020 and took all of our plans and mixed them up a little bit. So for the first time in its history, the NAEP skipped a year. So the last administration was in 2022, this most recent one that we're here to discuss the results of today. Prior to this administration, the last NAEP was given in 2019. Just a point of personal privilege for those of us who are watching, for those of you rather, who are watching online. This is a one-way communication online. You can hear us, but we cannot hear you. If there is a media outlet that has a specific question, feel free to send me a text. Again, my name is Michael Sibley. I think most of you know me, but if you don't, my name is Michael Sibley. I am the Director of Communications here at the State Department of Education. If you want to, you can give me a text directly at area code 334-657-8401, and I will make every attempt to read your question out loud, and maybe the state superintendent or one of several subject matter experts that we have available here this morning can answer your question specifically. Again, that is area code 334-657-8401, and I will do all that I can to address your individual questions if you have any at the end of this presentation. So with no further ado, we are here again to discuss the NAEP scores that were released this morning. And I am going to bring forward our State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Eric Mackey, to go into a little more detail and talk about what the results of today's NAEP scores mean for Alabama. Thank you. Dr. Mackey.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate Dr. Sibley putting this together and all the work he's done to get us ready for today. So first and foremost, we're going to flip around our charts that show where Alabama scored and how we did in fourth grade in both reading, and then I'll let Dr. Sibley come over this side and show us the math score. We're very excited about this work. Now, as you may have already seen on national outlets this morning, Alabama is one of the states, one of the few states that showed growth in a time when the nation showed, in many cases, sharp declines. We did have growth in both reading and mathematics in fourth grade. And to us, it is simply a testament of the good work that is going on in our classrooms. COVID was very difficult. It was difficult in Alabama. It was difficult across the country. But we had a group of teachers who held to our very high standards and expectations for students. Thanks to Governor Ivey's leadership and the state board's leadership, we made sure that our students got back in the classroom as quickly and safely as possible. And there is nothing more important than having a teacher in front of a student in a classroom. Now, I said that during the COVID time multiple times in multiple venues like this one this morning, that there is nothing more important, the gold standard, to have a highly qualified teacher in a classroom working with students directly. And because we did that, and we committed that instructional time to high standards, high expectations, we feel like that has led to our NAEP scores going up, and it's in line with what we saw with our ACAP scores. So if you followed our state assessment, the ACAP we gave in May. These NAEP assessments were given last January, so in January of 22. So the NAEP was given a little earlier, about 4 months earlier than the ACAP. The ACAP, we saw increases in reading in second and third grade. We saw increases in English language arts, mathematics, and science across the board. And so as we saw those increases, it made us think, well, maybe our students also, when the NAEP scores are released, will show increases in NAEP, and we were able to show that. Especially, we were able to show it in the lower grades. Again, a testament to the work that's going on. As we all know, Alabama's invested a lot through the Alabama Literacy Act in rebuilding the Alabama Reading Initiative, a great program that was very successful 2 decades ago. We lost some ground, that it was largely underfunded, and all of our regional coaches were, those positions were lost a little over 10 years ago. But we rebuilt that in the last 5 years, working again with our board, under Governor Ivey's leadership, with our legislature. We've put all that back together. So what we see is that things are turning around. Our state scores are going up, and our results on the nation's report card are going up with that. You see that over here on my left. And Alabama was one of only a few states that actually saw increases in their scale scores. And we now are 3 points, only 3 scale score points behind the national average on 4th grade reading. Many of you will remember that Alabama actually reached the national average only one time. That was a little over a decade ago, but we're only 3 points away now. We're well on our way, and I think we'll not only reach it in the next few years, but we're going to exceed that for the first time in Alabama's history. In mathematics, we're now 5 points from that national average. Again, very close, closest we've ever been. The highest as a rank, we're ranking 40th in mathematics, the highest we've ever ranked. We feel really good about this. We also, even though Alabama, like other states, saw more drops in 8th grade mathematics and reading, when we look at ourselves compared to the rest of the country, we're pretty close to the top on those too, because we were able to, again, hold our own even against dramatic drops due to COVID. COVID affected Alabama like it affected everybody else, but we took the effort, took the opportunity with our teachers in the classroom to make sure that we gave our students every opportunity to learn. And so we believe, as we focus on the early grades, which we do with the Alabama Literacy Act and the Numeracy Act, which we has just enacted this year, and moving forward, we're going to see this growth trend on into the intermediate and middle school grades and beyond. So Alabama has a strong foundation. We've built the right standards, and we are on the path for even more greatness in the years ahead. And I want to say only one other thing before we take time for some questions, and that is a big thank you again to Governor Ivey and to our state school board for setting the foundation. We have one board member who's able to join us this morning, and you've already seen a statement out from the governor and how pleased she is with this work. Well, this is work because in 2018-19, we began for the first time to say we're going to adopt new standards, which we call the courses of study in mathematics and English language arts, and align them with the NAEP framework. So we adopted new, rigorous, high expectations for students aligned with the NAEP framework. Then we adopted new assessments, our summative ACAP, to go along with those new higher standards. And so what we see is as we give teachers tools, and we get out of teachers' way so they can teach children, then students succeed. This is all about our teachers. And that last thank you goes to our teachers. There is nothing that could have been achieved in these last 3 years, and certainly not with the nation's report card, without the work of our teachers every day in the classroom, making sure that even in difficult circumstances, our students were supported, our students had strong lessons, our students were learning against the odds. Even in times when we did have to go remote for a while, and some students were sent home because of COVID protocols, our teachers made sure that instruction stayed strong, whether that was remote instruction or in-person instruction. But we kept hearing and we kept repeating, nothing beats getting back in the classroom. And so as quickly as we could, we moved all of our students back in the classroom. Why does that make a difference? Because of teachers. It's about getting students in a classroom with a highly qualified teacher who can work with students individually, who can identify what their learning interferences might be, and who can help move students forward. So we're very pleased with where we are, with the work that's been done, and we will continue to move forward. We're already deep into this school year. Remind everybody we're only 18 months away from the next administration of the NAEP, and we feel good about where we're headed as we move toward that next benchmark, which will be in 2024. So I will take questions. Dr. Sibley, I know, is taking a few questions online, but from the folks who are here in the room, are there any questions this morning? Got what you want? Okay. Yes, thank you. We are very proud of our subgroups. Of course, we are still breaking down these data, and we're going to learn things as we go. But Alabama saw tremendous gains in special education students. We had large double-digit growth with our special needs students, and we feel really good about that because what it shows is that we are committed to working with all children. Again, during the COVID pandemic, we were all very concerned about what it might look like for those students with special needs that most benefit from in-person instruction. But what we see is that we had very strong growth. In fact, we, in one of our categories, we reached for the first time our special needs students met the national average for special needs students. And so we feel very good about that. The other group that performed really well are our English language learners, or EL students. Those students also, double-digit growth, exceeded their peers and exceeded the average. So our special needs students and our EL students both showed tremendous growth. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything from this report that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
There probably were not any surprises. One of the things that we're disappointed in, again, were those middle school results, but as we looked at our ACAP results, we were kind of prepared for that because we showed the least growth in 7th and 8th grade on ACAP. So if these two tests were truly aligned, as we believe they were, and as proved to be, then we expected that those would slow. Obviously, as those students matriculate into high school, remember those 8th graders are now 9th graders. We want to make sure that high schools are doing what they need to remediate any students who might need extra help as they're now preparing for graduation and life beyond high school. So that is something, again, we weren't really surprised, but it was something we were afraid might come out of those results for those 8th graders, and it did, and that's just something that tells us what we have to focus on in high schools. Anyone else?
One quick question. Are there any of the initiatives that have been passed in recent years that you think are having an impact on the rate, both this one and the one?
Sure. So there's no question that the work of the Alabama Literacy Act is having a strong impact and did impact these scores. The reason that impacted the scores is because it allowed us to go in and rebuild that team of regional reading specialists who could go into schools and make sure they support what's happening in the local school. Now remember, the NAEP is given only to a select amount of schools. Most of our schools do not participate, but we know that as we built that network and we put reading coaches in all of our elementary schools, working with those 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade teachers and below, they were able to build a strong foundation. And then we came in, of course, with regional coaches to make sure that they had the right program. We've adopted new standards and new learning materials to help make sure our students are reading at a higher and higher level. In Alabama, we test the full range of English language arts in our ACAP, by the way. We test reading, but also comprehension and grammar and writing, and this coming year we'll be testing listening. The NAEP is only a measure of reading, but our primary focus in those early grades is reading. So there's no question that investment has made a difference. We've also invested many of our federal funds to make sure that we're supporting mathematics. We introduced a program very early on called Teachers in Residence. It was a pilot math coaching program. The legislature was so impressed, even before the pilot was over, they've come along and passed the Numeracy Act, which allows us to expand that coaching model to more and more elementary schools all across the state. So in the future, no question, you'll see more academic growth as those coaches are deployed in our schools, elementary schools, and they will help our teachers become better teachers of mathematics. It's not that we don't have the right teachers, it's that we have to give them the right resources and modern instruction that's aligned to the NAEP. Anyone else? All the questions? I do want to say a big thank you to Ms. Tracy West, one of our board members who was able to drive over and join us this morning. I know that we have some other board members who are joining us online, and the governor was going to join us online this morning. She wasn't able to be here in person, but again, we thank her for her support and very positive statement that she released earlier this morning. We will be continuing to break down these data, and I remind everyone, we don't have district data and we don't have school-by-school data. The NAEP only releases state-level data and then a few school districts, the huge, large city districts, but no districts in Alabama are large enough to get district-by-district results. But we'll be breaking our data down. As I mentioned this morning, like our special needs students making historic gains, we'll be breaking those down by subgroups to look and see what things we might need to do to, again, realign the work that we have, the supports we have out there. And so you'll probably see a few more things coming in the days ahead. But these two charts tell the story that Alabama's teachers are doing the right work and we're on the right path forward. Thank you.
And that is it. That wraps it up. Maggie, I did have a couple of emails to ask if you had any availability for individual interviews later on during the course of the day. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Of course, those who are here physically and those who are here virtually, we greatly appreciate your attendance as well as your appreciation for public education in Alabama. If there is anything that we can do to assist, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at msibley, M-S-I-B-L-E-Y, at alsde.edu. And again, you can feel free to call or text me at area code 334-657-8401. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic rest of your day.